Hi, everyone. My name is Tara Kalk, and I'm the project coordinator for the Southeast Mental Health Technology Transfer Center for the School Mental Health Initiative. We are very excited to present to you session 5 of our Classroom Wise course learning series. If you have any audio or technical issues during the session, please use the chat box to communicate with our team, and we'll do our best to assist you. Also, if you have any links or resources that you'd like to share, we encourage you to share those with the other attendees and us as well in the chat box. And finally, the chat box can be used for questions for Nancy or our center. And we'll go ahead and get started. All right, a little bit of a background on the MHTTC. So today's session is brought to you by the Southeast Mental Health Technology Transfer Center, or MHTTC for short, and more specifically, the School Mental Health Initiative. We are located in Atlanta, Georgia at the Emory University Rollins School of Public Health. We are proud to serve the 8 states in HHS Region 4 that you see pictured here on this blue map. Our center includes faculty and staff with expertise in public health programs, finance, policy, and health systems, which provides us with a unique lens through which we can address mental health priorities in our region. The goal for our center is to accelerate the adoption of evidence-based mental health programs and practices by providing training and technical assistance to Region 4. And we have a quick disclaimer. So just a quick reminder, this presentation was prepared for the MHTTC network under a cooperative agreement from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA for short. The opinions expressed in this learning session are the views of our moderator and panelists and do not reflect the official position of the Department of Health and Human Services or SAMHSA. And now I'm very happy to introduce Dr. Nancy Lever, who is an associate professor at the University of Maryland School of Medicine, Division of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, and co-director of the National Center for School Mental Health. Dr. Lever is a licensed clinical psychologist and received her PhD from Temple University and completed her internship and fellowship training at the National Center for School Mental Health. Dr. Lever has worked to advance innovative training and technical assistance efforts that aim to improve school mental services and supports. For over 20 years, she has led the advancement of interdisciplinary school behavioral health training for advanced graduate students, as well as for the current education, health, and behavioral health workforce. Dr. Lever serves as a leader for a national quality initiative on school-based health services, supporting states, districts, and schools in advancing school mental health policy and adopting national school mental health quality performance standards. She co-led the development of the National School Mental Health and Implementation Guidance modules and Classroom Wise. And now I'm going to hand it over to you, Dr. Lever.
Thank you so much, Tara. Really appreciate the introduction, and I'm excited to be here with you all. I'm absolutely loving and have enjoyed being part of Classroom Wise, and I'm excited as we're moving this forward and really thinking about implementation and how are you going to actually share this in your schools and your districts and encourage your teachers and your other school staff to be watching and using some of the strategies that are shared in the videos. In terms of our learning objectives today, our goal is to increase the understanding of the classroom-wide module structure and content for Module 6, increase understanding of best practices to effectively support classroom-wise adoption and implementation in local school systems, and to promote cross-state networking and shared learning about best practices in school mental health system implementation of school staff training materials. So we will share a lot with you today, but it's also important that use the chat box, share with each other, because those are going to give you some of your best ideas about how to move this great resource forward. What we'd like you to do is, if you haven't done so already, thank you for all of those who have been introducing themselves. If you can, type in your chat box, your name, your organization, your state. I know we mostly have some people from the MHTTC region, but we very much welcome people from outside the region as well. And if you haven't done so already, if you can just type your name and information in the chat box. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for typing that into the chat. As I'm presenting today, please keep in mind, you can use the chat box at any time to ask questions. We welcome questions, share resources, as Tara has mentioned. Use the chat box. These are your office hours, and we want to make sure it's as helpful and practical for you as possible. Before I talk more specifically about Module 6, I know that some of you have joined us for other webinars, but this may be your first webinar. I want to make sure that we provide a quick 5-minute recap of what ClassroomWise is before we dive into the materials. So one of the things people ask is, why do we need ClassroomWise? And we know that educators and school personnel play a vital role in promoting mental health and well-being and identifying and responding to emerging mental illness in children and adolescents. However, they often don't have the education, training, and ongoing support needed to respond in the classroom. So to address the need for this, the MHTTC network and the National Center for School Mental Health work together to develop the online mental health literacy training package, which we refer to as ClassroomWise. ClassroomWise is a free 3-part training package for K-12 educators. It offers evidence-based strategies and skills to engage and support students with mental health concerns in the classroom, and includes the 5 hours of the self-paced online course, as well as a video library and resource collection, and a website for educators on mental health literacy. We've really tried to put it all in one place to have it easy access and very practical and user-friendly for you to use. So it's on www.classroomwise.org. There's a 6-minute video on the ClassroomWise homepage. We encourage you to check it out. If you haven't watched it, if you have watched it, we highly recommend, if you're trying to encourage other people to use ClassroomWise, we strongly encourage you to share this video, because it really gives a lot of information over a short amount of time to really describe what ClassroomWise is and how it can best be used. So ClassroomWise includes 6 self-paced modules. Modules 1 to 3 focus on promoting mental health and well-being of students. And modules 4 to 6 really look at understanding and supporting students experiencing adversity and distress. If you'd like to see the objectives for the course, please check out the course objectives document link, and we'll have someone put that in the chat box for you in case you want to look at that now. To take the ClassroomWise course, you'll go to classroomwise.org. You'll launch the course on classroomwise.org. By clicking on that button, then that will take you to Healthy Knowledge website, and then you would click on View Descriptions and Enroll. You would register and begin the course, and you would have an account and a login in order to make that happen. So again, very user-friendly, no cost, and we've really tried to make it very easy to access. Some of the details about the course you might be wondering about. We've received some questions from you all. It is narrated, so you'll need speakers or sound enabled, or you can use closed captions. There is also a full transcript of each of the modules that you can download at any point, whether or not you took the course. So this could be helpful if you want to share what the course is about with leadership, if you want to go back and you want to look at a given module and have some notes, or be able to see what was shared. The 6 models must be taken in sequence. So in order to get to module 6, which we're on today, you would have to complete modules 1 to 5 first and pass each of the quizzes with an 80% completion, a success rate, in order to advance to the next module. A certificate of completion for 5 contact hours is available once the course is complete. So it's not continuing education, it's a certificate of completion. I do want to mention that anyone can take the course and you do not need to be a school professional. And in terms of who in the building can take the course, we recommend that any adult in the building would benefit from taking the course. On the ClassroomWise website, you can access the video library, which contains all the videos that are embedded in the ClassroomWise online course and the resource collection. And in terms of the video library, there's 50 different videos. It's separated by the module, but that is something that if you're doing a training, if you have a professional development, if there's something you just want to share with someone, that you can go and access any one of those videos without pulling up the full course. In terms of the resource collection, we have a wide range of resources such as identifying student distress, tips for starting mental health conversations, creating mental health bulletin boards. There's a wide range of resources, and we will continue to evolve this collection. So again, as you're taking the module, you can reference them, or you can just go to classroomwise.org to actually access the resource collection as well. Today our focus is going to be on Module 6. And, as we are talking about Module 6 on classroom strategies to support students experiencing distress, we will go and have a more focused discussion on that. But if you have questions from 1 to 5 or anything about the larger course, you are also welcome to ask those questions as well. At this point, I'm going to ask Tara to launch we have a couple poll questions for you.
And you should be able to choose as many options as are appropriate. So if you've done more than one module, you should be able to choose that.
Okay, Tara, are you able to share with us the responses to that?
Yeah, so it looks like 11 out of 14 people have not viewed any of the modules, and a couple people have started on module 1, and it looks like maybe there's one person who has completed the whole course.
Excellent. And don't worry, I'm going to go through the module to give you a sense of what's in there. Our goal for the office hours, if you haven't looked at them already, that's okay. We are going to get you excited, give you a sense of what's in there, and for you to be thinking about, as you're watching the modules, how to best use them in your school or district. And Tara, we have one other question. Thank you. So how likely is it that you or people who you work with will use the modules this school year? From not at all, somewhat likely, likely, or very likely, if you can put your response in. Okay, Tara, do we have most of our responses in?
I'll give a couple more seconds. Just it looks like we've got a couple more coming in.
Excellent.
All right, so it looks like about 18% said somewhat likely, almost half said likely, and about 35% said very likely.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear people think it's somewhat to very likely that they're going to be using the modules. I totally understand that if you haven't looked at them yet, that's probably a harder answer to a harder question to respond to. Our goal will be to help you think about, ideally, we would love for people to take all of the modules, but there may be one module or two modules that you really want to focus on in your school or district. So these office hours have really given you a chance to learn more about the individual modules. So again, we're talking today about Module 6, classroom strategies to support students experiencing distress. And when we were working with teachers across the country and asking them their opinions about what is it that they wanted, this was probably one of the most common responses that, beyond just awareness and identification, we want to have some strategies. What can we actually do in the classroom to begin to support students who are experiencing distress? So, this module really came out of a request from the field of what they felt was very much needed. So within Module 6, which is the last of the 6 modules, we explore the importance of self-regulation and co-regulation and how it equips teachers with specific strategies to support students experiencing problems with emotion regulation, executive functioning, social skills, behavior regulation, and substance use. As part of this, we're really looking to identify strategies to support the students who are in distress. So in the previous module, Module 5, we discussed how students' behaviors don't happen in a vacuum. We really need to be thinking about the whole child and the experiences that they're having. And behaviors are often a reflection of the environmental stressors and difficulties in a relationship or attachment, and can be a sign of unmet needs. So student behaviors may be a response to system-level issues like racism, poverty, food or housing insecurity, school climate and safety, or community violence. All of these factors we refer to as social influencers of health. This broader way of thinking prompts us to consider the whole child and to try to view their world through their eyes. And as part of Module 6, we're really discussing the importance of attempting to understand behavior in this way so we have a better chance of identifying student needs and perspectives and responding with strategies that help. So we're moving away from, blaming or figuring out, what is the discipline for this, but what do we do to help? Let's understand and figure out what strategies can help promote success for that students. Some of the questions we hope that teachers can ask when they see behaviors include, like, what factors might be contributing to my students' emotions and behaviors? What is a student trying to communicate? And what unmet needs is my student trying to meet? So really thinking about that as part of the larger picture. One of the things that we really appreciate, and it has received really good feedback from the modules, is that you get to hear directly from teachers in the field. And this is one teacher talking about student distress, and we know that students' life experiences can impact them in the classroom, and teachers need to be able to recognize the outside challenges that students bring into the classroom. So in this video, this teacher discusses how they recognize distress in their students. So let me share this with you.
One of my children, she and her brother were homeless. She went from coming to school on time every day to get, like, our school starts at 8 o'clock, to coming at 10 o'clock in the morning. We're supposed to be teachers, and we go to school for education, but we're so much more than that. We're social workers, we're moms, we're dads, we're, sisters sometime. I was able to hook them into the school social workers so that they can get transportation services. You really, really need to pay attention to patterns, and changes in patterns.
So I have a student that I actually am still in contact with, who her mother had just come back into her life. I could tell it threw things off for her. Her grades were falling. The mother had a drug dependency. So you can tell that it was affecting her schoolwork. She is a student that always participates, so it was affecting her emotionally. I had to pull her aside and sit down one-on-one and try to figure out what the issue was that was affecting her so that we can help her.
So as you can see, being able to identify and connect with students is certainly very important. And, teachers will have their own strategies to how to make sure that students feel comfortable in being able to approach them. This module really talks about the childhood and adolescence are times to develop and practice emotion regulation, executive function, and similar skills. And it really asks educators to think of themselves as a coach, and states that providing extra support to students who experience distress can drastically improve their academic performance. So, our teachers are coaching and supporting, they are still working with a larger team. We know that in helping support students, we cannot do this on one person should not be doing that all on their own. It really takes the team to figure out how to best support students experiencing distress. Teachers are really an important part of that team, and we'll perhaps have the most time with the students, and we'll be able to identify some of the concerns that they're seeing and we'll be able to apply some of the strategies that are recommended. But I think the important part that we want to emphasize here is the teacher should not be having to do this in isolation. Another thing to consider is equity versus equality. What works for one student may not work for all the students, and figuring out, what is that unique strategy for the student to help them be successful. So this module notes that two of the most important strategies for interacting with any student, but especially for those in distress, are self-regulation and co-regulation. Self-regulation is defined as the process of managing one's thoughts and feelings to enable goal-directed actions for success. And co-regulation is the process of a caring adult engaging with a child or young adult in a way that encourages development of self-regulation. So successful co-regulation is dependent on the adult's successful self-regulation. So our adults are very important in this equation, as they need to be able to self-regulate their own behaviors and to share and help support students in being able to learn this really important skill. So the module describes how there are three main elements to self-regulation: paying attention to your own feelings and reactions during stressful interactions with the students. So we often focus on validating students' feelings, but it's equally important to validate your own feelings, to be aware of, what is this bringing up for you? Co-regulation calls for the recognition of your own reactions, which can be hard during stressful situations, but it's a really important step. Paying attention to how you interpret other behavior and your own thoughts and beliefs about the behavior is really a part of this process as well. It's a very important part. And then the third step is developing and modeling strategies to self-calm and respond effectively and compassionately. Some of these strategies may include taking deep breaths, self-talk, stop and waiting before responding, and responding calmly. And the module offers some tools and resources, and the videos help to demonstrate some of these different strategies. The module points out that one powerful way to teach self-regulation skills is to explicitly model your own regulation, letting students hear your thinking so that they can understand what's going on internally and externally. So example, imagine you're trying to show a video clip and your technology isn't working and you get frustrated. Instead of just trying to manage that internally, you can share what is happening with the students, and that's an important lesson. So the first step is to label your feelings for the class. You could say something like, I don't know why this isn't working right now. I'm feeling frustrated. I know that's because I can feel my heart starting to race. By labeling and giving an example, you're reinforcing lessons on understanding our emotions. Then you can model a calming strategy. I'm going to take a few deep breaths. You can invite the class to join in and lead the class in 2 or 3 rounds of a quick breathing exercise. And finally, a model problem solve. You can model problem solving. Now, let's get this working. This is a good chance to use our problem solving skills. So it's, really taking advantage of the opportunity to deal with the moment in to deal with the challenge in the moment for yourself, but also teaching students how they can handle things when technology or something else may not go their way. In co-regulating with students, this is important because it allows students to practice new self-regulation strategies. We can't assume that they already know how to do this, that someone has taught them this, or that they already came knowing what those skills are. Schools offer a safe place for students to practice doing that. And ideally, over the course of the school year, they'll learn from their mistakes and they'll get better at doing this. And over time, they can build their own confidence in self-regulation. When a whole school is doing this, when teachers across a grade level, within a grade level and across all grade levels are using some of these strategies, it can really be reinforcing for students as they're getting the same messaging throughout their day. So there are 3 areas that the module describes in which educators can support student self-regulation. Providing a warm, responsive relationship by communicating genuine interest, respect, and commitment to care, recognizing and responding to struggling students. It's important for students to know that they're not, that you know them, that you care about them, that that you want to hear things that are unique about them and, what their interests are. It's important that you help to create a structured and predictable environment. And, by doing that, provide behavior goals, consequences, positive reinforcement. By providing consistent routines and expectations with clear goals for behavior, well-defined consequences, it will help students know what's expected of them and what they need to do. And as part of the co-regulating with students, teaching them that coaching them in the self-regulation skills. As part of this, now you begin by modeling, you provide instruction, definitely lots of opportunities for practice, and you reinforce students. They will not get this right the first time, and that's okay. Allow them the opportunities to practice and help them get closer to being able to regulate. Encountering students experiencing distress in the classroom can have an impact on teachers as well as students. So in this video, a teacher discusses their feelings when encountering student distress.
The old me, like first couple of years teaching, I felt like I had to be, no, that's not going on in my classroom, and just having to be like the warden a lot of times. I've learned over the years how to deal with certain situations, how to deal with students, and not let certain situations get me riled up. And a lot of times I learn students have certain behaviors and I can say are disrespectful or loud to the teacher, and 90% of the time, it's not even the teacher that they're mad at. So I really try to let students calm down and then talk to them. They're, oh, well, he did this or she did that. I'm like, but I didn't do anything, but I'm the one, that you're yelling at. So I just try to talk to students. Like, I know that you're mad. And when they see me talking calm, they kind of, bring it down, because I've been the teacher who was the yeller and the, what I say goes and you don't do, and I've learned how to not be that teacher, and it's much more effective.
When a student is expressing distress in the classroom, that can be very alarming to a teacher for a number of reasons. One, you never want your student to be uncomfortable in the classroom or to feel unhappy. And obviously distress means that something is wrong. And then as a teacher, particularly as a newer teacher, you want to have that semblance of normalcy in the classroom. You want to seem like you have everything under control. And when a student isn't regulating their emotions in a way that's to your preference, let's say, meaning they're not quiet, you may start to have anxiety, like, is it something I did? Is it something that I should address? Should I not address it? If I address it, is it gonna make it worse? When a student is not behaving as they normally would, and that's something that you should know of your students, how they normally behave, right? Because that's a spectrum in and of itself. But if a student is not behaving as they normally would, that means that something is wrong. And it is your responsibility, if something is wrong in your space as a teacher, to address that. And addressing that looks different depending on the situation and depending on the student, but that you can acknowledge it in such a way that is effective for your classroom and effective for your student is incredibly important.
Any reactions to that video or the videos that you've seen so far? Feel free to, we're a smaller group, feel free to come off mute and any reactions. I do think, having the videos, being able to see live examples make a difference. Feel free to, make a comment in the chat if, what your reactions to watching that video were. But I do think I loved hearing a teacher, like not only are teachers growing, not only are the students growing in the skills, but teachers are changing as well. LaQuandra, thank you. I think it's common as adults to feel we need to be in control, and she enjoyed them being honest with that. I loved our teachers. I felt our teachers were very real, and no one likes feeling out of control in a moment in the classroom. I think as the adult, you want to feel like you're getting it all right. It's hard for the adults to make mistakes or to feel their own emotions kicking in. Life events go on for adults too. There's times that you're going to be upset coming into the classroom that have nothing to do with what's happening in the classroom. So yeah, I definitely think the self-regulation, co-regulation are really important skills. And we hope that, through the modules and through practicing some of these skills, it will help our teachers to be able to better support students. So in previous modules, we discussed the 5 domains teachers can consider related to student distress, including emotional regulation, executive functioning, social skills, behavior regulation, and substance use. Module 6 really goes deeper and provides specific strategies for individualized classroom support for each of the domains. So several of these strategies were described in the earlier modules, but this module really focuses more so on, what can you do in the classroom? So for example, we discussed that students with executive functioning problems may have challenges in planning, organizing, managing, and successfully executing the steps needed to complete a task. So students may be disorganized, struggling to pay attention, and keeping their attention and retaining information. For each of the problem areas mentioned, we will give strategies that could be helpful. So helpful strategies for students who are disorganized and may also struggle with attention include like pairing oral instructions with visual supports for learners who are inattentive or have cognitive deficits, providing repetition of information. They need to hear information multiple times to learn a new skill. Having an assignment list, like teachers can place a schedule and assignment list on the student's desk to get them in a good habit of keeping a to-do list and promoting independence. So that could be something they do together, and ultimately the student will take more of that on. There can be a homework tracker or a daily planner to write down assignments. And there can also be a use of a digital recorder to record a class, lectures, and discussions for later review. There's a lot of different options, and between what is shared in the module and the resources, our goal is to provide teachers, when they have students who are having some of experiencing this distress, that they have a toolkit. They have like something that they can go to and think about what are some of my options of what I can do to try and help the students. So I'm going to share one more video. One of the things that we try to do across all the modules is have some role plays. And here is a role play about de-escalation.
Using de-escalation strategies like these can help prevent the length of a crisis in the classroom.
Okay, we have about 3 minutes left to finish up what you're working on.
3 minutes? I won't be able to finish in 3 minutes though.
That's okay. Take some time, just finish that one sentence first.
No.
Oh, it's okay. It just seems like your pencil kind of put a hole in the paper. I would be a little bit upset too. Let's just take a quick second, take some deep breaths. I think you might be ready to try again. Do you want to keep using your pencil or do you want to try my pen?
I'd like the pen, please.
Remember, we have the beanbag chairs. They're pretty comfortable if you want to try those out too.
Okay, thanks.
Although the student's frustration may seem confusing to you, expressing any impatience with them and telling the student to stop may actually increase their dysregulation, as they are not currently in control of their emotions. Here, we see when the student gets upset, the teacher makes sure to validate their feelings, offer co-regulation strategies, and provide the student with choices to help them feel more in control.
I definitely have found and we've heard from teachers who've taken the course, that the videos can be very helpful. And as we mentioned, the videos can be shared separately. So as part of a staff development, you could take that example, you can share that, you can brainstorm as a group, like what are your options? What's unique to your school? What do you think you'd like to try? How do you help one another when you are experiencing some of these situations? In terms of this module, just a quick summary of what the module covers. Behaviors are often a reflection of stressors, and part of what we want people to realize is, when you're thinking about behaviors, don't think about them in isolation. You really need to look at the whole child. Self-regulation and co-regulation are an important part of that strategy. And how do you help students who are in distress? Modeling your own skills is a powerful teaching tool. Students learn more from what we do than what we say. Teachers are so important in the lives of our students and have such an incredible impact, even sometimes when the teachers aren't aware of how much of an impact. The students are watching and are aware. And beyond teachers, everyone in that school building, from our cafeteria workers to the principal, how do we make sure that everyone's modeling skills when distress is occurring? And as part of what we're trying to do is we really want to create a safe and supportive classrooms and identify and support students experiencing distress. And the more we do that, the more we can increase the likelihood as teachers have these skills that students will be able to thrive. So we know this isn't easy, will take a lot of work, but we certainly believe that it is all worth it and something that is a skill that we can grow in our teachers, in our school staff, to be able to better support the mental health and well-being of all of our students. Just as a highlight, I shared with you a few of the videos, but there are other videos within that module as well that I did not share today. Please feel free to check those out when you're taking the module or separately. And there's a lot of resources, a tremendous amount of resources. And as I said, more are being developed too as we are piloting, and more schools and districts have used the modules. As we get your feedback, there will be across the MHTTCs, new tools and resources will be developed to support these modules. Within Module 6, some of the helpful resources include de-escalating a distressed student, preventing suicide, the role of high school teachers, and strategies for co-regulating with students. Again, these are just a few of the many resources that are available. So I'd like to open up some discussion. Feel free to if you're willing to go off of mute and talk aloud, that would be great. If you want to type in the chat. Do you think from what I was sharing today that the content covered in Module 6 related to student distress, do you think it's relevant or needed for your school or district? Why or why not? It's okay if you haven't participated in the modules. Do you think from what you're hearing, is this the type of, are these the topics that need to be covered? Lisa's saying, definitely, we need to cover this. It's certainly, the request to have these modules is really coming directly from the field. This is what teachers are wanting. This is not mental health providers saying, here's what we think you need. This is what teachers are asking for. And this was our strategy, our attempt to provide them with what they were asking for would be the most helpful. One of the greatest challenges is they were asking for, there's so much that's needed, but they also wanted it all to fit in under 5 hours. So that was a little challenging too. So that's part of why we have additional resources that people can go to if they'd like to learn more information. So I'm getting a lot of that you definitely think it's needed, it seems relevant. And we know, during the time of the pandemic, now more than ever, this is going to be a really important topic. More students have had some challenges with anxiety, depression. There's been a lot of changes that have impacted families, from financial implications to loss of loved ones over the pandemic. And there's also been some learning loss for students not having as much access to, their classrooms, to their teachers. Some students who had really poor attendance. So being able to address and have some strategies to think about mental health. We don't want mental health to just be something that our counselors, social workers, psychologists are addressing. We want it to be broader for all of our, school staff to be thinking about. Any other comments about the relevance of this? Anything else anyone would like to share? Okay, Lisa, it's just a lot for teachers to add to their already busy schedule. It's just a lot for teachers to add to their already busy schedule, yet ironically could ease things. More regulated students who speak up versus act up by the middle to the end of the school year. Absolutely, that's a great point, Lisa. One of the things that we're trying to do in these modules is how do we integrate this in? Yes, you need to do the modules separately to watch them, but in terms of how you apply them, our goal is for this not to be an add-on, that this needs to be integrated into the day-to-day teaching, the day-to-day school life within a school building. And hopefully, if you're not spending as much time writing up office referrals, and there could be some cost savings if we're helping our students. In the long run, our students do better, but there could also be some cost savings related to not needing to fill out all those forms and go through the process and have extra meetings related to that. Miriam says that materials and resources all in one place are very helpful. Folks have been overwhelmed by all the information, small bites of information. Thank you, Miriam. That is what we're trying as a mental health trainer and developer. It was hard because sometimes you want to keep giving more and more, but you all are saying exactly what we were hearing from the teachers. Like, give opportunities to learn more, but try and give like the core bites, what's most essential, offer toolkits, offer strategies, but it cannot be a 20, 30-hour course because people don't have the time, but how do they build that together? So we would imagine that this course will be helpful. People can take it on their own, but having discussions, working as a group, sharing some ideas and resources would be a way to get this more integrated into that. LaQuandra, pay me now, or I love the quote, pay me now or pay me later. And I feel spending a minute to teach and encourage deep breathing or reflection would be a big payoff. Absolutely. And one of the things that I like, and we're hearing positive feedback about ClassroomWise, is yes, we're talking about student well-being, but it's also recognizing throughout that you cannot take care of our students if we're not taking care of our teachers, of the families, of the adults who are in their lives. Like, that you have the image on an airplane. If first you have to put on your own mask before you can, if the oxygen levels drop, put on your own mask before you try and help a child. And I think that point fits with this as well, that you need to make sure that we're addressing self-care for everyone in the school building. Another questions, does ClassroomWise seem to be aligning with priorities or existing initiatives in your schools? Are there things that you can see this fitting with that you're already doing? So alignment's going to be important, because if this feels like a new thing, it's going to probably greatly decrease the likelihood that anyone will want to take part in this. So is there anything that you see this fitting, aligning with? What are you doing now where it might align with what you've been doing? Does this fit with your professional development? What initiatives might you have in your school already? Feel free to speak out or to go off of mute, or just type something in the chat. Any thoughts? Katrina, I've taken all the modules and they are very useful. I learned a lot from modules 4, 5, and 6 because of the pandemic. Excellent. Yeah, so 4, 5, and 6 are definitely a lot more application related to helping to identify and support students who are already in distress. And I'm glad to hear that the tools are helpful. Anything else about alignment or how this fits with your current priorities? We have heard that this fits well with PBIS. It fits well with restorative practices, social emotional learning. Those concepts are all integrated into ClassroomWise, and our goal is not to replace them, but to really complement some of the initiatives or resources that may already be available. Okay, time for another poll, Tara. You ready to share another poll with us?
Yep, I'm working on it.
Okay, so you actually using the strategies, to what extent, as you were hearing some of these strategies as part of the presentation, to what extent do you think that school staff in your school, district, or state are using the strategies mentioned today on a regular basis already in the classroom? Do you think they're already using these strategies? Not at all, a little, sometimes, often.
I'll give about 5 more seconds.
Okay, if you haven't responded, please respond. Your input matters. Okay. So what this is showing me is that there's room for improvement, that, we have 10% saying that they're not using them at all, 60% saying a little. Ultimately, we'd love to see everyone saying sometimes or often. So hopefully the more exposure to training like this and potentially some coaching and support around this, the more likely we'll see people actually using some of these strategies, which can only help students to be successful. And Tara, I believe you have one more question for us as well.
Yep. And you should be able to see this last question, and you can actually select more than one.
Okay, so what types of support would you be most interested in receiving from the Southeast MHTTC? What would be most helpful to you? So, would it help to have some individual consultation about can you better integrate this into your school or district, more office hours, discussion guides for each module, a summary and tip sheets for each module? What would you like to see, or what would be helpful? The Southeast is amazing at providing, technical assistance, training, support. We want to make sure that what is being provided is actually helpful to you. If you can respond, that would be great. What would be helpful to you? No right or wrong answers, just your opinion.
We'll give just a few more seconds to answer this poll.
Okay, so I'm seeing less need for office hours, more for just more quick tip sheets, discussion guides, some individual consultation, again, things that will make it really practical and easy to use. And we know time is precious, so I think sometimes having things that you can just grab and access is when you're ready to have that time available is really important. And I just see that we had a comment from Lisa. There's a big difference in use between school, district, and state. And we absolutely acknowledge that they're all very different levels of how to consider using Classroom-Wise. Ideally, we'd love to see states encouraging, their districts to check this out, districts encouraging their schools. Ultimately, our hope is that this information and the resources and strategies are getting to directly to our classrooms. So we know that classrooms are influenced by district leadership, state leadership. So, part of what we'll be doing as we're doing consultation with leaders and providing technical assistance at the district and state level is thinking about what's needed to actually get the lessons learned into the classroom. So Lisa, some districts are implementing full SEL programs and having them integrated throughout each class grade. Some teachers have different levels of skills in working with students too. Absolutely. And I think what our goal for this, for Classroom-Wise, would be how do we reach all those teachers? So teachers who are more advanced can continue to develop their skills, but teachers who may need more basic level skills, that there could be resources and tools and consultation and support and potentially future training developed that could help support them as well. So excellent points. We appreciate the comments. Okay. Just as a reminder, in terms of Classroom-Wise, it's free, self-paced, 5 to 6 hours. It's always available. It's accessible yet interactive. And we do hope that there can be discussions in your schools or even a shared professional development where you're all looking at the materials within classrooms. And very much, I hope that we are able to work with districts and states to think about how to integrate this in a way that it doesn't feel like an add-on. Some additional resources. Here, there's a two-page overview of Classroom-Wise. We'll put the link in the chat if you need a summary or would like to look at the summary of what the course is, and just get some more general information about that. As we also have course objectives. As I mentioned earlier, if you'd like to look at those and would want to be able to share those, we are making them available to everyone. See, LaQuandra, I'm seeing that there's a comment. We have a problem-solving team, and this would be helpful for that team to have with school leaders, teachers, and a mental health therapist. Yeah, absolutely. Like this could be something that teachers are using directly. It could be a tool that your counselors and mental health providers can use and share some examples when working with teachers. I think our goal is to make this as practical and useful as possible. One of the nice things about the work we've done as part of the MHTTC and with the National Center for School Mental Health is we're willing to continue to build the resources and tools to add to these modules if there are things that would be helpful and would increase the likelihood of really the uptake of the information. I'm going to hand things over to Tara. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to ask them now or type them in the chat. And I'm going to turn things to Sarah to share some information about the next office hours and evaluation.
Thank you so much, Nancy. This is very informative, and thank you to everyone who participated and left some comments in the chat box. You'll see on the screen that our last session is next week on Tuesday, starting at noon, just like the other sessions, but this one is actually going to be a bit longer, so it'll go until 1:30 instead of 1. And we are leaving this one really open for questions. So we hope that you will bring your colleagues with you next week and come with lots of questions for Dr. Elizabeth Connors. And if you can go to the next slide, Nancy, this is our evaluation that I saw Sarah plopped in the chat box. So as part of receiving SAMHSA funding, we are required to submit data related to the quality of this event. We ask that you please take a moment to complete that brief survey about today's session. It'll just take maximum like 1 minute. After you complete that survey, you will be redirected to a second survey, which is also very brief, and it includes additional information from our center that we like to collect in addition to the first survey, because you'll see that that one asks more specific questions, and we use those to improve the quality of our trainings and make sure that we're addressing the needs of you, our stakeholders in Region 4, as well as to inform our programming. So we would really greatly appreciate it if you took the opportunity to complete that second survey as well. But if you only have 1 minute, then at least do the first one. We really need those to continue our funding. Thanks again, everyone, for joining, and we hope to see you next week.
Thank you, everyone.
I think Sarah put that link in the chat again, and you can see there's the other link to register for the next final session. So if you haven't already done so, please register, and please feel free to forward it to your colleagues.